Hello and welcome to a show called Right There, Right Then. I am your host, Johnny Aaron. This is sort of a show about community service, public issues that concern people in general. And I have guests here today. Let me introduce them. This is Tom Camarella, Eric Tillberg, Adele Siegel, and Greg Blum.
Nice to be here.
Yes. All right. So, Tom and Adele are from an organization called PeaceGuides, which specifically right now is dealing with the JORTC, which is a well, would one of you like to explain it?
Okay. JROTC is Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, and it's for students in high schools. That's the junior part. In colleges, they take off the junior. They're just ROTC. But now it is in high schools all over the United States, and it's a special school within a school where students are given special class by special military instructors. As Peace Guides, we are looking into the basic issues of JROTC and the military in schools, and are doing research on the cost and the value of how much education they are really getting, public education in public schools. And basically that is our task, to do research on finding out the basic reasons why the military is in public schools.
Okay.
And I can give a little information on that. And one is that 40% of the current recruits are coming directly from high school. So if you want to go in the military, this is a good way to do it, see?
Huh.
So where else might people come from if they're not from high school?
They just walk into the recruiting office, or they're picked up other ways. You know, they have they have family members that are in the service, or they...
Oh, it's a big project across the nation. Wherever high school or teenagers hang out, sports arenas, there are recruiters there with videos and video games and come-ons, and even at where they have airplanes, military airplanes flying, they will cater to high school students to make them feel that the military is the way to go, that this is their life ambition, that they will get everything out of life that they need by joining the military. It's all across the nation, in every nook, and even in public malls. You'll find recruiters everywhere.
Huh. It's funny you mentioned video games there. I've just recently heard about a computer game that the military, the U.S. government has put out advocating the military, that's free and you can download it off the internet.
Yes, they're
No kidding.
quite adept at that.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what exactly are they doing within the high school? Like, what is it that, like, it's classes, or it's like little pickets, or what?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of promises that the JROTC makes that aren't quite true.
No.
Yeah, honestly, guys.
I don't think so.
And in fact, the Supreme Court, when some of these cases have gone up, they've said, yeah, you can say just about anything. So if they say, you know, I'm going to make sure you're a pilot. Well, you know how many make to be a pilot? 1 or 2% at the most.
Really?
Yep. And they could do this with any of the skills, okay? They can say, you're going to be a radio man and you're going to work with computers. Not so easy, because only 10, maybe 15% make it, and all the rest don't. So that's what you've got to understand. That's up front, okay? Huh. And number two is the money that you think you're going to get for college. The first thing you're going to be doing is giving a deposit to the government from your work. They're going to put in $1,200, and then if you don't go to college, that $1,200 is gone.
Oh, the
government
keeps it.
They keep it, right?
Oh.
And then if you get a dishonorable discharge, which, by the way, 25% of the people who go in the service come out with a dishonorable discharge.
That's a whole fourth.
Yep, 25%. You lose it. You lose your deposit. Okay?
So why would you need to deposit anything? Because you're working for them, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. Eric, that was a great question.
Oh, thanks. So why would you need to give them money?
It's a come on to make you think you're going to get a college education.
Well, why can't you just pay a college money and get education?
Why? Why is a good question.
That's kind of strange.
Why do they promise them the money and not come across? You can go to college, you can without joining the military and still be financed and really get a college education. When you go in the military, a very small percentage will ever graduate from college while they're in the military or out of the military. Because there are, not only because some students go AWOL, some students just drop out of the service, some students, I mean, these are not students, I'm talking military people. They're too tired to take college courses. It just doesn't work because, they also have to take tests. They have to meet certain criteria. And even if you do get a college degree, you have to take certain courses that are strictly military. It doesn't go across the board.
So what sort of college courses could you take?
Well, you
Just
could
at any college that's local or wherever you happen to be?
Well, you could take college courses to join the military. I mean, to work in the military.
This is kind of circular.
Well, for the different services, they have a lot of technological equipment and weapons and programs that need college-educated people.
But the problem is this, is that a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go in the military so they can teach me a job and I can get some education. Right. And when I get out, I'm going to have some money in my pocket, right?
That's right.
They've done studies on this stuff. And the fact is that a third of the homeless people on our streets are from the military. That's number one.
Number one.
That's outrageous.
Number two is that 32% of the people who are out of the service are not doing as well as the normal people are doing. Okay? And 58% of the women get harassed in the military. And it's a racist, sexist place.
Racist?
Huh? Yeah. Guess what? It just so happens that all the new recruits that are coming in, they're mostly minorities. It just so happens that all those in authority, the officers and everything, just happen to be white.
Most of them.
Most of them.
Put in
Right.
one or two Latino, one or two
But the
Black.
percentage is just the opposite on both.
And that's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. Because they recruit from the high schools because they want to make sure that they get a lot. In fact, if you look in, say, the Los Angeles area or any large city, they'll go to the high schools that have the high minority students. They'll go there 2, 3, 4 times as more often as they will to the ones that are white dominated.
There you have it.
Well, where does the money come from to fund these training
Can I
programs?
answer that?
All right,
I've done a little research on this. The money comes from the Pentagon. Part of it is paid with federal funds, and listen to this, most of it is paid by your local educational funds. They start off by starting the program saying, it's equal. We will pay half, that is, local schools will pay half, and federal government will pay half. It's not so. When they start out, the local schools pay a small amount, and the federal funds pay a lot. Well, guess what?
What?
5 years later, it's the other way around. The local schools are paying a lot, and the federal funds are much, much less. So it turns out that your local educational funds, of which we need very much, are paid by the federal government instead of going to our classes, the
Electives.
Elective classes are going to the military, JROTC.
Which means you guys get less music classes or driver's ed or football or other
any
things.
elective
Okay?
class.
Yeah.
Anything.
So that means that kids would go to the military to get an education, even though where they came from, high school, is lacking in education.
Because of the military.
Because the military is taking the education money. So pretty much they're trying to just make the kids spend more of their time in high school / military. You know, it's all the same.
That sounds wrong to me.
Well, especially in formative years. I mean, this is when most people are understanding the world, kind of looking at a more idealistic attitude and
Sure.
stuff. And what is the military teaching you? There's one way to solve something. Bam. Okay? That doesn't work too well. Obviously, we're still having wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think war is outdated.
How so?
I mean, don't you think people would be smarter by now to, know that war doesn't usually help stuff?
Well,
I think they're beginning to think about war being outdated and too horrendous. So instead of war, they have mind control.
Oh, that might be helpful.
And it's just the other way around. Mind control is much worse because they can tell you anything they want and make you believe it. And you have no way of finding out what's true and what's not true. And they can swing you around to their strong business point of view. And your civil rights are taken away from you. And this is something that is very, very serious.
It's a sham.
okay, so I want to get back to the funding for the JRTC. So if they put more in inner city, if they put more attention on inner city schools, and the money comes from the education, then the inner city schools get depleted of educational funds.
Getting less electives. I mean, the fact is that when they come into a school, they'll say 20 or 25% is what the school is going to pay, and the government, we're going to pay for the rest of it, 75 or 80%. But like Adele said, 5 years later, it's just the reverse. So the school district is paying 75 to 80%. Now, where is that coming from? The monies that the school gets for electives are now coming out of that,
Right.
and therefore there's less electives. That's what I was saying earlier.
Right, but it's more extreme in the inner city schools because that's where they target more.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes, it is.
Oh, so that's
Now
interesting.
they have less tutoring besides, and less education, because JROTC is the antithesis of education.
Well, but they teach you how to make war. Though that's not
one
really
way.
helpful.
This guy.
And a lot of people don't understand. You know, when you get in the military, it's called strict obedience. Now, how many guys want to go into something in high school where they're going to have more obedience, man? A lot of them don't realize what they're getting into. And then if they push back, then you got the military code. And then you don't have the same kind of rights that you do out in the normal public. It's the military code, man. You don't get an attorney, and you don't get all these other things, and you come out with a record, all this kind of stuff. Bad news.
How come they don't tell me that?
Well, they just forget it, you know? Either that or they say, don't worry, you're not going to have any problem.
Once you get in, you'll find your place, you'll get a career. And the careers you get are not necessarily, most of them are not applicable in civilian life.
Isn't this like false advertising? I mean, like.
Yes, but they're allowed to do it. The cases, the civil cases that have come down, all the courts, the the interim courts and the Supreme Court have all said, you know, if you've got a crisis in the country, you can tell them anything to get them in. Once they sign on the bottom line, you're held to the signature, but the government isn't held to their promises. Isn't that fair?
No.
Yeah.
We should go to we should go to war against the military. That's terrible.
I would like to.
Yeah. I'll
Alright.
sign up for that.
So, all right, but let's say there is a just war or whatever, or
Yeah,
like,
that's,
right,
that has been brought up in the past, just wars.
right. So wouldn't it be like a way to like fight for your freedom, or like to join for the military, like the recruit to people who want to, who really feel passionate about this in high school?
Well, actually, we've had a non-draft army for quite some time. Way back in the 60s, they stopped that, and we've had a draft army since then, a non-draft army. So we can do it. We know we can do it. Maybe you have to pay them a little more. Maybe you have to keep the promises that you say, things like that. You'd get more people in. Maybe if there was less racism and sexism, maybe you'd have a little bit better too. So there are ways to get people in, and if somebody does it when they're 18, 19, 20, that's one thing. But when you're talking about 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds getting indoctrinated from freshmen on, that's silly.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
So when do you think they should recruit? Like after high school or after college, or?
Yeah. I mean,
But isn't it easier for them to get people if the kids are younger, because then they're more impressionable, and then they would,
You're
give
right.
in easier.
you hit it on the nose,
Yeah,
Eric.
so
You're
they
right.
should do junior high
I
kids.
will vote for you for senator.
Elementary.
Yeah. Well, we should make separate schools that are really military schools, where they don't tell the parents when they're sending their kids to it.
We do have military public schools in this country.
Public schools, really?
Public schools
Wow.
in Chicago. It's in Oakland and Chicago. And also, there's another
The
state.
Citadel has one too, don't they?
Now, there are a number of, but the ones I'm most familiar with are Chicago and Oakland. Oakland's brand new. Chicago is also new, but it's all 4 grades, high school, 9 through 12 are it's a school by itself. The school was taken from rebuilt in Chicago in the poor section, where the outside is still an old building, but the inside is a work of art. All new equipment. It shines. They have computers and everything you need for education. And every student wears a uniform. Uniforms are paid for by the federal government, and they have 3 or 4 different sets of uniforms, and they wear them to school. Everybody, men and women alike. And I wanted to say about the high schools. The English and math, I'm pretty sure, are taught by credentialed teachers. All the other subjects are taught by military instructors,
That's interesting.
which mean they do not have to have a teacher's credential. They have to have a credential, but not a teacher's credential.
So do they teach all the other subjects?
Yeah, whatever they teach.
Oh,
How do you dress?
I don't believe it.
is that a subject?
You don't believe it? Well, it's in the is it the Progressive magazine? I have the article expanding high schools in the military high schools in the United States.
Wow.
Do they meet standards and things? Like, I mean, there's standards that the public schools have
I'm
to.
sure they meet military standards.
Well, you will probably have enough. First of all, they have a greater ratio of teacher to students, where they get more help in their studies and in their tutoring. And so if you have greater help from adults and teachers, you will probably do better, and you will be coached to go to college. but that doesn't mean all of the students will go to college. They might, because they're small schools. And they're concentrating. They're given money, which public schools are not given money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think,
Yeah.
I personally think that the government does not want public schools to succeed so they can have these military schools. That's one thing. Also, there are not enough jobs outside of the military and the, I would say, things having to do with war in this country and the police, for people to have jobs that are civilian jobs.
Getting back to the high schools, if money's going to the military to do these classes, you don't have enough books. You guys have enough books?
No.
I mean, is the fencing around the place all rusty and everything?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're having major problems like this, and yet they're giving money to help the military. Look, if the military wants to recruit and stuff, do it after high school. Don't mess with the high schools, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we have like tiles falling from the ceiling, and like all of our books are old, and
My Spanish class didn't have enough books, so we didn't have books.
no books.
Oh,
Yeah.
terrible.
The teacher's curriculum was ruined.
I
Who
once
knows what's
saw-
going to happen?
I once saw a whole troop of military people come in and, rip out pages of books and stuff and leave. Terrible.
They have
Just
their own
random.
books too. By the way, the JROTC curriculum is made and written by the Pentagon. They have their own books, their own curriculum, which is separate from
So that's what these public schools have? The
Public
ones
schools.
Oh,
Public
wow.
schools.
Okay.
yes.
So they're not held to the same standards as other public schools.
Well, they're in public. Oh, you mean yes, the ones that are completely military schools are supposed to have the same standards. The ones that are JROTC, they are part of the regular high school. And they only go to classes 1 hour a day,
Wow.
5 days a week.
Mm.
And they have 2 instructors for 100 students, or up to 149. When they get 149 students for the day, they can now get a 3rd instructor. It would be great if students, even in the same high school, could read the contract and find out exactly what is happening, both in cost and in curriculum, and in education. Education is to find out, or not to find out, is to build on what students know, to develop their skills and understanding and learn how to question. In the military, you don't learn how to question.
One last thing that should be said is that the military is getting information on all you guys. I mean, as long as there's been the new bills that have been passed, they have information on you. And they can recruit you unless you and your parents sign a specific thing that says, I don't want my name in there, okay? So they can come on campus anytime they want. They can send out mailings to you telling you how terrific, Greg, the military will be for you, okay? And they can hype it up, all right?
Huh.
So if you're at the age right now, make sure you sign those things so that that they don't get your information, guys.
All right.
Can I say something in that respect? I don't know if we have time on it. Maybe it should be another.
We have 2 minutes or a little bit less.
Well, there is a new law passed by Congress last year called the Education Law, and No Child Left Behind. And in it, they have included the right of military recruiters to come into high schools anytime they please and recruit students. However, parents are to be informed about these recruiters, and the schools are supposed to send out notices to parents that the recruiters are coming, and that they don't want their students involved with the recruiters.
All right,
I'm not quite sure
Well, I have to wrap up now.
Okay.
So, thank you for watching Right There, Right Then. I was your host, Johnny Aaron. Thank you, thank you, Tom Camarella, Eric Tillberg, Adele Siegel, and Greg Blum. And if you want to contact us, find the next show, or contact PeaceGuides or anything, get the email address and the phone number that's about to run on the screen in a few seconds. Thank you.
Be